And you can have 30 pairs of pants if you want to, but if each of those 30 pairs of pants can only be worn on one day of the week at one time of the year, like, is it really worth it? But if they can all be worn 365 days of the year interchangeably with some other items, perfect.
Hello, and welcome to Holistic Ambition, where we talk with visionary leaders who are redefining what it means to be ambitious. We cover ways you can live with more well-being, meaning, and fun in your career, business, and relationships. I'm your host, Stephanie Thoma, life coach for ambitious professionals and author of Confident Introvert. Today, we have DeJhauna with us. She is a full spectrum image consultant who teaches women how to tap into the most powerful version of themselves so they may unearth their fullest potential by living a life of fulfillment and authenticity. DeJhauna believes that in order for the outer version of you to shine, the inner version of you must align. DeJhauna is a guide for high-achieving individuals who are ready to take their life to the next level. Oh my gosh. Okay, I just want us to dive in about when it comes to this parallel of, let's say, personal style and feeling confident, or let's say, do you believe that you need to dress a certain way to feel confident or feel confident to dress a certain way? Let's talk about that dynamic.
Yeah, so I believe that you need to dress a certain way to feel confident, and then vice versa. In order to feel confident, you should be dressing a certain way. And a certain way isn't defined as, you have to be dressing in button downs and slacks and wear heels every single day and have a full face of makeup on. But you get to define what that looks like for you, what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel sexy, what makes you feel confident, what clothing does that for you, what makeup styles do that for you, what hairstyles do that for you. But by defining that and sticking to that vision and sticking to that aesthetic, one may say, is what truly brings out the confidence in you. Because if you're, walking around in sweatpants and jeans and, old sneakers all day, yes, I'm sure that's comfortable. Your leggings and your big hoodie are probably really cozy and comfortable, but also how are you really being represented, not only to others, but to also yourself? When you see yourself in the mirror, in the reflection, like, do you feel like a powerful person? Do you feel confident? Most likely you don't. And that's going to impact, you throughout the day and such.
Yeah, that's such a great point where, let's say, not just how were you viewed by other people. I know a lot of people, let's say in recent years, have gotten into the habit of wearing pajama pants on the bottom and a blouse on top, or, but it's like, wait, what's going on? How are you feeling about that? And I'd love to hear from you if there's an example in your own life or with a client where, let's say, there was this dressing a certain way that was suboptimal, and what different tweaks, let's say, you or someone else made that actually made such a big difference.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example from my life and from my clients. My life, I work from home. And so even just like a few months ago, say earlier this summer, I found myself just being in comfy clothes at home, being in my little athleisure. And while it was, kind of a set and cute, I noticed I wasn't getting as much done. I didn't feel in my highest optimization of self. And I was kind of just lazying off in my work. And one day it was like, why don't I just actually fully get dressed? Even if I don't have somewhere to go until later in the day, until later in the evening, I'm just going to fully get dressed. I'm going to do a full face of makeup, like my version of a full face, but I'm going to do my hair. I'm going to put on a nice outfit, top to bottom. I'm even going to put the shoes on. And when I started doing that, I began to notice, one, my confidence level just in my own house by myself skyrocketed. I felt good. And if I'm feeling good, I want to do higher level, put in higher level effort for my work and just sit down and get things done. And I'm feeling good about myself. So I'm able to feel good about the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm saying. Maybe I'm writing for that day or filming something, whatever it may be. In clients' life, I've also seen this as well. I had a client earlier this year who she was dressing, I guess what you would say her early 20s self was how her early 20s self was dressing. And there was nothing wrong with the item she was wearing. But as we tailored her image to more of a polished and elegant and sophisticated look, she let me know that she, one, began to see different activations in her own self, in her business, and started to truly walk into her own entrepreneurial state. Whereas when she was just dressing more so like a student, it was hard to really step into that.
See, I love this emphasis on identity, where sometimes people can get a signature style or have one, early 20s, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally. And then it could actually impede a feeling of confidence later on, when actually it's like, hold on, now people are still perceiving you in that way. You're still perceiving yourself based on how you're dressed. And actually, I'm curious for, let's say, someone listening in right now where personal style is something they've thought about, but it feels really overwhelming. Particularly, let's say on a Zoom call, if someone's getting ready for a Zoom interview or even a Zoom date, whatever it is, what is one thing that someone can do to either elevate their style or attune their style to their current, most authentic, highest self?
So one thing they could do, it's going to take some prior planning. So, but one thing they could do is have a signature, and not necessarily signature, but have a outfit that they know is going to bring out confidence in them. And so I have certain dresses. All my clothes at this point bring out a very high level of confidence, but I do even have more specific items. One dress that I always wear on a first date. I don't do much virtual dates, but I assume if I did a virtual date, I would still wear it on that date. But have that one outfit that it is, you're the man, you're the woman when you wear this outfit. It fits you in all the right places. And again, like I said, it's going to take a little bit of prior planning, maybe the night before, try on all your outfits and see which one really invokes that. Yeah, I'm feeling good in this. I don't know how to sum that up into just one word, but that's generally the feeling that you want that outfit, that ensemble to give you. And that's how you can truly begin to invoke that feeling of confidence in whatever you're wearing.
Yeah, it's this Marie Kondo. I love that you mentioned that you don't really have clothing you don't feel confident in. And that's a question for listeners and viewers to ask themselves, wait, do you have clothing, or maybe even a lot of clothing, that you actually don't love or don't feel confident in? Maybe it's time to do a little spring cleaning. And something that we've even talked about before this conversation is working with your colors. And, some people are winters, springs, autumns. Can you tell us about this sort of color psychology or color component of dressing
Yeah.
for yourself?
So I'm sure most people are probably aware that certain colors invoke certain feelings. Like we all hear red invokes passion and blue is more calming and things like that. So I feel like that's a baseline, that knowledge that most people might have. But when it comes down to it, you have your natural color palette. So, your eye color, your hair color, all of that, that's what I call your natural color palette. And so beyond that is your personal color palette, which are going to be all of the colors of the rainbow, basically, but more specifically, the colors that are well suited for you to make you shine. So a lot of times we might wear colors where, let's say if I'm wearing the color black and I have a really nice black dress on, black is not my color palette. When I show up in a room, someone's going to see the dress before they see me. And so what attuning to your personal color palette does is allow you to show up first and be seen first over the items that you're wearing. Color registers in our vision and our minds in like a tenth of a second, I believe it is. And so literally when you are wearing colors that are in your color palette, it allows someone to instantly be attracted to you, allow yourself to be like magnetic, basically. So when you think about, if you are in leadership and you're showing up in the room and you want to instantly be commanding without having to walk in and say, I'm the CEO, you wear something that's in your color palette. And I have also found that by wearing colors in your color palette, you are going to instantly feel more confident. It's not something that you're conscious of before, you know what colors look good on you. But I think subconsciously we kind of know, like, certain colors give us a feeling. And before I had my colors done, I steered clear from bright colors. And I think that was a link to how non-confident I was, because when I began to do my own colors, my color palette is bright spring. So it's all basically bright colors. And so as I began to wear them, I was shocked at how more confident I felt, and just, how much more I stood up straight when I walked into rooms. And it was really surprising to look back and say, well, why wasn't I wearing these before? Well, maybe I wasn't at that level of confidence. I didn't want to tune into that level of confidence. I didn't want to be that version of myself. So colors can really do a lot for you. They can speak before you have actually opened your mouth to speak.
I think that's such a great point because we've all heard about, don't let the dress wear you, you wear the dress. So this really
Mhm.
illustrates that so nicely, where sometimes it's a fit, but in this case, it can also be a color that really, allows you to shine and complements your features, or just like is not working for you. So, thanks for making that distinction. And when it comes to creating a personal aesthetic or a personal brand that is authentic to you and consistent, I know myself, I feel like I have a few different aesthetics. There's like the athleisure self, there's the like polished boss babe self, there's the more studious, glasses, bun self. So,
Mhm.
I'd like to talk about, first of all, identifying what you want that personal brand aesthetic to be, and then how important is consistency with that.
Yeah. I'm glad you said you have a few, because I'll start with that. I think people can get lost in thinking they have to be one version of themselves, especially women. And so to even like cancel that out, you could have multiple. I have multiple versions of myself as well. I have multiple aesthetics, but I think deciding on those versions of yourselves and those aesthetics that you really want to show up on a day-to-day basis. So you have one, lots to choose from in your closet. You don't get bored, unless you want to just get bored and have, black t-shirt, black jeans every single day. Some people do want that. But the importance of having a personal aesthetic, I think the importance is, one, it eliminates decision fatigue. So you don't get up in the morning and go through your closet full of clothes and still say, well, I have nothing to wear. You know that you can put an outfit together with all the items that you have, or at least a handful of those items. And then on top of that, you know that it's going to make you feel good. It's going to make you feel confident. It's going to represent, your values and what you stand for. So that's really the importance of having the personal brand. Um, there's something called brand recognition, and I think people use that term more so in when we think about like products, but it's also can be thought about when you refer to yourself as a personal brand. If I were to show up in um like emo style clothes, I don't think people are really going to recognize me, because that's not my brand. But I show up in nice, polished, light colors, brighter colors. Someone instantly knows, oh, like DeJhauna's here. That's who she is. That's what she represents: a nice happiness, a lightness, a peaceful vibe. Instead of coming in heavy eyeliner and all black and chains and all that.
And I love that social component you brought up because sometimes, it's great to have different maybe archetypes or things that you gravitate towards, but it's like, do you want to forge relationships where people
Mhm.
actually recognize you? And if you mix things up too much, let's say even in a similar context, then people can be like, oh, wait, like I feel a little different around this person, or is that the same person? Based on that. Um, yeah, is there anything that you'd add? Or if not, then I'm curious about like being strategic with your wardrobe to have it evoke that sense of confidence.
Yeah, I will. Well, so for the previous question, I would also add that it also gives yourself brand recognition. And so I've
Mhm.
noticed when you are one going through the change of defining yourself and figuring out your personal aesthetic, your personal brand, there can be a little bit of discomfort. But once you have your set aesthetics, you feel recognizable on a daily basis. And I think that's an identity shift. So, as you're going through that shift, it feels very uncomfortable. And it's like, something's not quite right, because you're still figuring it out. But if you do that on a daily basis, if you have too many versions of yourself, if you have just random items in your closet that maybe they look good, maybe they were for an event, but now you're going back to like looking at yourself in the mirror and um, your own reflection, as you see yourself, it's like, wait, who am I? So you're constantly posed with that, wait, who am I? Wait, who am I, on a daily basis? And that can get confusing. That leads to you now questioning yourself. And when you begin to question yourself, you most likely will begin to question the things and actions and habits and, your other mindsets and beliefs in every other facet of your life. So it also helps with giving you some recognition of, this is who I am, these are my values, this is what I stand for, this is what I do. And by holding fast to those, you have a higher level of, again, confidence in yourself on a daily basis.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think those are such great points and a call for consistency. But before you
Mm.
get the consistency, it's about getting the clarity of what is that main aesthetic, or maybe it's like a color scheme or something that can be expressed in slightly different ways, but still has that common thread. And this does kind of bring us to that question that I mentioned a bit earlier about, you know, a strategic wardrobe that can really evoke a greater sense of confidence beyond what we've already discussed.
Yeah, so strategic wardrobe. And when I say strategic, I always refer to that as, can you create at least like 10 plus outfits with everything in your wardrobe, with like a handful of items? If you're unable to do that, the wardrobe isn't strategic. If you only have items that you can wear on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock, like it's not strategic. And so being able to, you can create a strategic wardrobe in 3 simple steps. Purge, decide what you want your aesthetic to be. And purge just meaning get rid of the things that don't make you feel confident, get rid of the things that you feel uncomfortable in, get rid of the things that only have one sole purpose that, maybe 2 years from now, sure, you could wear again, but is it really worth it to hold on to it for that long? And then lastly, get those foundational basics. Once you've decided what you want your aesthetic to be, what you want that to look like, get some foundational basics. I have a guide for discovering your personal style. And so I think you will have a link for that as well for listeners, and they can download that guide, which really walks you through those 3 steps so that you can fully discover your personal style and create that strategic wardrobe. There's going to be a bit of a learning curve, of course, with all things. And so once you decide your aesthetic, you may begin to gather some foundational basics and realize, I don't really like this that much. Like, this isn't really invoking the feeling that I wanted it to. So, okay, maybe you try out another one. I would say I probably went through like 3 or 4 aesthetics with minor changes in all of those before I got to where I am now of saying, like, I love this wardrobe. I know exactly what I'm looking for every time I go to the store. I know when I buy something new, it's going to go with everything else that I already have. And that's what we mean by strategic. Does it go with what you already have? Can it fit into who you are, the wardrobe you have? If it can't, consider the wear you're going to get out of it and such.
Yeah, I'm seeing parallels with a capsule wardrobe in a sense, but it sounds like there's a little more involved with that. And even so, for example, right now I have very limited luggage. I'm in San Francisco, and I feel like I implemented what you're calling, this sort of strategy of like, can I wear these pants 5 days out of the next 10 days? And it's like, I can. Okay, cool. Like, what about this top? Okay, I could get away with that with this skirt. And yeah, just having
Mm.
that sort of strategy where then you get to
Yeah.
relax after you are strategic.
Yeah, it makes life so much easier. Like, again, it eliminates that decision fatigue. You don't have to get up and say, "Oh my gosh, like, what do I wear today?" It's like, okay, I'm feeling pants. Cool. I've got these 5 pairs of pants, and maybe what type of top do I want to wear? Great. All the pants go with all the tops, so it's now just a matter of, what am I really feeling today? Like, what feels most comfortable? Um what is the vibe I really want to step into today, you could say. And so it is similar to a capsule wardrobe, but I think there's a bigger focus on capsule wardrobes with, I guess, more minimalism. And I'm certainly not a minimalist myself. And so by having a strategic wardrobe, it eliminates that fear of like, oh, I can only have 5 pairs of pants. And you can have 30 pairs of pants if you want to, but if each of those 30 pairs of pants can only be worn on one day of the week at one time of the year, like, is it really worth it? But if they can all be worn 365 days of the year interchangeably with some other items, perfect.
Yeah. And, you mentioned earlier about someone who was dressing, for their 20s and maybe they were in their 30s at that point. So I'm curious about how personal style evolves over time. Is this something where someone can have, let's say, a session with you and then they're like, okay, great. Like now I know my personal style, or how often does someone's personal style change? And I know that so many questions, but then I'm also curious about, um, an aspirational style versus an authentic style.
Yeah. Okay. So, how often does someone's style change? That really is going to depend on that person's rate of transformation and their desired rate. So, I'll speak for myself. My personal style has small tweaks at this point. I say small tweaks because I am in the phase of I know exactly the broad scope of style that I want to keep for the majority of my life that I really enjoy and have enjoyed as I've really learned to define my style. But it kind of tweaks every 6 months. But I am someone who enjoys transforming and elevating my life. And so I know that with each new level of growth, there's going to be a new level of one inner self. And then of course that comes with a new level of desired outer self, which is going to be, your personal wardrobe, your image. So for me, it's 6 months. For some people, it could be once a year. For others, it could be every season. Maybe they want to do some small tweaks. So that's really going to, again, depend on that person's rate of transformation. But your desire to change your personal style, that is up to the person as well. So I know when I began my journey, my own journey of elevating my personal style, really finding the defined style, that was in 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. And so it took me about 2.5 years to really cement a style that I wanted to keep. And I say keep because I can broadcast to the future and say, yeah, I could see myself in 5, 10 years wearing certain similar items. I know when I go to the store, I can look for an item and say, I could see myself keeping this for about 5, 10 years and it's still being enjoyable for me. I think that's important to point out. It should be enjoyable now, but hopefully, it's still enjoyable in the future. If I get something and it's kind of uncomfortable, it's just a fad, it might not be as enjoyable to wear, 5 years down the line, 2 years down the line. But style does change, and you're certainly not locked into an aesthetic or a style. I think people should also play with their style. And it doesn't mean every year you're saying, well, gotta clear out this wardrobe, like gotta start all over. Maybe you add in a new accessory, maybe you add in a new color, maybe you add in some funky shoes. So there's definitely ways to experiment and to continuously elevate your style without completely saying, well, I have to go buy a whole new wardrobe. And so that's the importance of having one, a strategic wardrobe where you have those very foundational basics. The foundational basics are going to be different for everyone. I have a good few blazers, some mini skirts, and a lot of dresses. I don't have very many pants because I don't really enjoy pants, but my strategic wardrobe is a lot of those items I just mentioned. And so that can change for you. But if you have foundational items, you can usually fit those like foundational items into new styles that you want to experiment with, because I believe that what you like at a very baseline level, that's going to be hard to change. I like dresses and skirts. I've liked dresses and skirts my entire life. Have I worn pants for the majority, for good portions of my life? Sure. But did I feel uncomfortable? Yes. And so now that I'm like, okay, what is true for me is I like dresses and skirts. I need to have more dresses and skirts in my overall wardrobe.
Yeah, that's a great point of even, I mean, because as kids though, not everyone even had the agency to even dress how they wanted to. So even thinking back to what did I want to wear more of that I maybe didn't get to? And this brings up another point of having classic pieces versus super quirky, funky pieces. So especially as someone is exploring expressing their authenticity through style more, how would you balance having classic cuts or classic colors, all of that, with the more funky pieces where maybe you could wear it with everything, even though maybe it clashes a little bit because it's a signature item, or maybe it comes out every now and then, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think there's The balance comes with how often are you going to be enjoying that piece? If you can, again, only enjoy it on a Tuesday in July at 5 p.m., like, is it something that you should maybe invest in? Maybe if you have the, unlimited funds and that's what you want to do with your money, sure. But I think most people, if we can at least begin to shift our mindset around clothes and say, well, I can only wear this once. Like, is it really worth it to invest in it? Even if it's something you like, maybe it is. And even with that, maybe you can find a lower quality, a lower version priced of that same item, something similar. So I think there's a lot of components to consider with that. Like, how much do you want to spend? What do you want the quality to be and the such? I also like to use accessories as a available option to experiment with different quirky pieces. That's a really good way because an accessory isn't going to cost you that much for the most part, but it's also not going to take up space. It's also not going to take up mental space, physical space and mental space. Whereas if you want to get like a super chunky sweater, it's maybe going to take up a sizable portion of your closet. And now you can only wear it in the winter time, but maybe you get a tie or something like that and you can wear it with a lot of different shirts. So that is those are two ways anyways to consider like quirky items over classic pieces. My other thing I was going to say is classic is going to be defined differently across the board as well. So I would say I fit into the more like timeless of style. And so a lot of my pieces that I have are traditionally classic. But if you're someone who enjoys more quirky, like super colorful items, like their version of classic's going to be different. Maybe they have purple pants and like red shoes and a bunch of like different like multicolored shirts. Those might be very classic for them. So you also have to sit down and say, okay, like I think the classic pieces come after you have more so cemented what you would like your brand, your style to be. I didn't start looking for classic pieces until very well into my own journey. And I don't encourage people to start looking for those like classic pieces that you can have excessively long term until you're like, okay, like I've tried some things, but this is what I really like. This is what I keep reverting back to, basically.
I think that's a great point that even within the umbrella of classics, there are going to be some classics that work for you and your body type and some that are not. So,
Yeah.
There's so much more I feel like that we can go into. However, we're going to go ahead and start to wrap up. And I'd love to hear about how you define ambition.
Yeah. So I define ambition as being able to say, this is what I want to do now, and this is maybe what I want to do later. And seeing maybe not the full scope, but being able to give yourself, I guess that future focused view and not cementing yourself in the right now, but also having foresight for what can be.
I love that, having that vision. And now when it comes to holistic ambition, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, holistic ambition. So I would define holistic ambition as having foresight for the entirety of your life, or maybe say it's just your business, and not focusing on just the health, just the money, just the family, and beginning to take a broader look at what are all the components of that, what really makes up a happy life, an ambitious life, because it's not just going to be one thing.
So yeah, all those puzzle pieces. And for people that want to stay connected with you and learn more about you, how can they do that?
Yeah, people can stay connected with me on Instagram. My Instagram is at DeJhauna, and they can also connect with me on LinkedIn under DeJhauna Smith. I also have a YouTube channel called Reach Your Bliss, where we talk all things personal development, confidence, and authenticity.
Amazing. Well, okay. Thank you so much for your time today, DeJhauna. And I would like to thank you at home for tuning in, watching. Consider this your invitation to subscribe to be the very first to know of the next holistic ambition speaker in our series. Wishing you a beautifully aesthetic day inside and out. Until next time.